Welcome to the 8-Minute Rule podcast, where actual physical therapists share clinical pearls designed to create conversation around what's getting results in the clinic. No fluff, no Medicare stopwatch, only quality content. Welcome back to the 8-Minute Rule. I've got Mark and Drew here with me. Today we are going to talk about essentially the pathway to leadership. So a lot of new grad clinicians have a desire to be a leader one day, and sometimes you want to be able to start with the end in mind. So I want to get y'all's take on that. But first, we'll start with an icebreaker. Drew, what is your favorite self-help book or podcast?
The one that's been the most impactful on me is one of the first ones I read. It was The Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. It's been around for a long time now, and it's still one of the best that I've ever read.
It's in my queue. How about you, Mark?
All right, I'm going to do it again. I haven't listened to any self-help podcasts or read any self-help books to this point.
So disappointing.
He doesn't need any help.
And look where you're at. So that's all right. It's working.
It's not to say that I shouldn't.
So it's not advice. It's just how you did. Yeah. I really liked Drive by Daniel Pink. I think it's very simple, but it's cool to really kind of dive in deeper to how people think and what motivates them as well too. So I recommend reads there for the rest of you guys out there. All right, so getting to our topic again from the eyes of essentially a new graduate who knows they want to pursue leadership, whether that is being a clinic director of some sorts, whether that's going and opening their own practice, whatever have you. One of the things that we want to be able to start off with is knowing, hey, what kind of steps do I need to take to get there? And you guys have obviously been extremely successful in working from the new graduate position to leadership, and even within the same company. So I wanted to ask a couple questions and get some thoughts on this. So let's actually start off with you, Mark. What about your path to leadership would you say was unexpected?
So I became an interim clinic director during COVID when the regional director went out on EFMLA. And so there was obviously a lot of changes and a lot of things going on during that time that I had to manage. And having zero experience is a little bit of trial by fire, but I felt like I had a good support structure and I knew that it was temporary. So that was kind of a nice thing to know that, like, all right, if I really mess this up, like, it's only for a little bit. But so I had a little bit of experience there. And then when I transitioned into a full-time clinic director role, I didn't at the time have a regional director at all. And so I was constantly trying to have to figure things out on my own. And it was definitely difficult. And there were a lot of long hours put in trying to figure things out. But I learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes and learned from those mistakes as well. And that's kind of, that was definitely not the, I guess, traditional pathway to leadership, at least in our current company.
So trial by fire ended up working out for you, but obviously not something that you expected coming into it. Fair enough. Drew, give me some feedback on how does a newer clinician that's looking to build leadership skills, how do they balance building leadership skills while also kind of drinking through a fire hose of just learning all the stuff that a new grad has to do and working in an outpatient clinic?
This is going to sound maybe kind of weird, but I think no matter what you're doing, you're learning leadership skills, and you think about it that way. Like you always want to be learning. Like that's a key thing. Can you learn from your mistakes, just like Mark did? Like I don't think leadership had early on always necessarily been a goal of mine. I knew how to work hard. I knew kind of what I wanted to do, and I would chase after them. And I remember a couple different times, like on baseball teams, and people talking about being a captain or I can see you being in a leadership position. And it was nothing I really thought about until like sometimes I stepped back and I was like, now that I'm in a leadership position and I see that in other people, you can be like, oh, this person, they're just, I wouldn't say natural leader, but they have these characteristics and things that help push them forward into that. So it's taking ownership of situations, taking responsibility for what you're doing, not blaming others. And then also like trying new things and not being afraid to fail. And when you can do that, not be afraid to fail, and when you do learn from it, like those are the people that are probably naturally just people are going to look up to. They're going to start following them. And it's less of like, I want to lead you, but like, can you get people to follow you? I think that's one of the biggest things is stepping out when people need things. What can I do? How can I help? And be the type of person that people want to follow, which is probably the most important thing to being a leader.
Yeah, I love that mindset. I really liked what you said a minute ago, which was that you saw a pattern over your life, and especially as a clinician around people seeing leadership qualities in you. And I think there can be a balance between, hey, I know what I want to do and I'm going to strive for it, and there's a ton of value there. But likewise, how do you know when you're going to be ready to lead? Well, if people around you are noticing those things without you having to say it, that's probably pretty good evidence that you've been able to show some leadership qualities as well too. And so I think there's something to kind of putting in the time, doing the work, and being able to hear those around you start to notice those things exude. And that's probably a pretty good line that you're going down the right pathway there. So I like that thought, and the idea of you got to shoot your shot. At the end of the day, you don't want to go out not trying to take the shot. I think shout out to Kobe Bryant there for as well. So, all right, this one's going to be for both of you guys. So thinking back to a new grad and maybe some barriers as a new graduate and maybe habits that you had that in order for you to be an efficient leader that you had to change. So it can be just one. I know there can be plenty of those that exist. So Mark, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we kind of do with patients all the time, but often don't do ourselves, is normalize discomfort. Like when you're moving into a new role, new position, or trying to push yourself to grow, there will be discomfort, and that is normal. And it's also necessary and good to make those growths. So like as a new grad, doing anything on the phone, whether it be with patients or other providers, that is awful. It's terrible. And to this day, I don't enjoy it, but it's something that I know I can do and I can do well. But it does, even today, I still have to kind of push myself to do it because it's just something I don't necessarily enjoy. And that's just one example, but it could be any number of things for any person.
Love it. Normalizing discomfort. Yeah. Put something in your way that you know can be productive and force yourself to do it so you can start to make it more normal. All right. What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, that was a good one. I really like that one, Mark. The one I was thinking about was this came from someone way wiser and older than me, and you guys both know him as Jeff Hathaway. The first time I heard this, it didn't make sense, and I wasn't in a leadership, like a big leadership position, I don't think. And it's the "it's not about you and it's all about you" quote. You have to drop your ego, know when you make a mistake, admit that, and do the work personally to be okay with that and be able to admit it rather than trying to blame others, make excuses, things like that. When you have to be able to own mistakes, drop your ego, and when you're in like a crucial conversation, you're having conversations with someone where there might be high energy or something, like know where you're at and make it not about you. Like be able to take the heat, be able to take some of that blame and say, okay, I can learn from it because I'm okay with where I'm at. And that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, I think one that I'd like to add to the mix there is again, something that we all do. And again, a lot of leadership training is what we have to do as clinicians, right? You got to take ownership over your patient. You need to be able to communicate with them. But I think the active listening is such a big deal because, and it's one that I'm not always great at sometimes. I mean, there's going to be times where it is really a struggle to do that. And the same with your patients, right? You got somebody else waiting on you, but you're trying to hear this evaluation share their subjective with you. And at the end of the day, that's your opportunity, right? And that's your time to get buy-in, to get trust with them. And, you know, I can have the best set of manual techniques and the best exercise program written up. And if I'm not listening that the patient works 3 jobs and doesn't have time to do X, Y, and Z or get in the clinic, you know, however many times a week, it doesn't mean anything. So, you know, that filters into being a leader. And I think you guys know that as well as anybody that in the same regard, like you cannot be an efficient leader without really being able to practice active listening. So I think that's something that as a new grad, I had to really change because I had all the best things I could give my patients, but they didn't work when I didn't listen very well. And so I think that was a big part for me. Drew, one quick thought. You'll see some clinicians that start, and I think it's good for new grads to kind of recognize somewhat on the other end of the spectrum. And they want to come out and they want to be able to prove themselves as a clinician against that person that wants to, hey, I want to be a leader. I want to be good at my job. And it's not necessarily a bad mindset, but what are some mistakes that you may see from some younger clinicians that are trying to prove themselves that they might can learn from?
Giving up too early when you fail, which you inevitably will. The Dunning-Kruger effect, where like you start and you're probably high in or low competency, and then suddenly you realize it, and then you kind of drop, and you're like, I'm not as good as this I thought. And you have to be able to push through that and continue to learn, which is some of that. That's where you're going to normalize that discomfort, and you're either going to quit or you're going to get through it. And having maybe the sisu, if that's a word. I know you two know it, but other people know. Do you have the desire to want to continue to learn and push through that, and then eventually work your way back up into competency? There's a lot of things that we do that are hard. Learning a new technique, trying to put it into practice. You're not going to be super successful at first, but are you going to continue to work at it, and or are you going to give up on it?
Yeah, I think that's great. I was actually having a conversation with a new grad just yesterday around this, and it was that hard place of, when I see a patient with a tendinopathy, in 13 years, I can tell them I know about what this is going to look like. I can tell you this is going to work, and it's going to take this amount of time. It's really hard for a new grad because their sample size is much smaller, and they're having to kind of state it, and hopefully it's going to come to fruition for them. And so, I think, as you said, when you feel like you've really assessed a patient well, and they're an extension responder, they're responding to this manual intervention and this strength training routine, they're doing good for a visit or two, and all of a sudden they backtrack. There's such a tendency, especially as a new grad, to, oh gosh, I got to change everything up and go a different direction, versus, let me dig a little bit deeper. Did I have the right direction going where I need to go? We need to give a little bit more time too. And I think treating a patient along with all the other things that you're talking about, those have a ton of value too. So, all right, what do you think, Mark?
I kind of agree with a lot of what he was saying. Obviously, I don't have a ton to add, to be quite honest.
Great. No, that's good stuff. Drew with an excellent answer there. All right, well, I appreciate the time here, guys. Good stuff, good information there. And until next time.